Leader of Opposition, 4-minute rebuttal, and the Prime Minister, 5-minute. Who are the math people? What did this add up to? A lot of time, about 45 minutes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we should end up right about there. Okay, here's some key terms that you're going to need to know. This House, you're going to hear the topics, at the beginning of each topic, it's going to say this House, and that means that there's an acting agent for the resolution. The government gets to choose who they want the House to be, because it's going to be their case to take in those 15, 20 minutes that they'll go off and sequester and prepare themselves. They will assign an acting agent. Keep in mind that the opposition, once they learn when the debate commences from the government who the House is or who the House is, then they will have to argue from that same perspective. You will also hear the term resolution. That's the topic that we're debating. You'll find out that resolutions can either be about facts, meaning that the government's going to try to prove something's true, about values, trying to determine or assess and measure the worth of something, and finally policy, which is advocating a future course of action. So the government's burden is going to fall into one of these three areas depending on which topic they've picked. They're going to construct a case, so the first thing they're going to do is define the terms of the resolution. This allows them to advance the interpretation that they wish to prove in their debate. They will also present, very important here, a weighing mechanism. They're going to tell you how to judge them, and I'll explain a little bit more about that at the end of the debate. Early on, the opposition can say, yes, we agree with that weighing mechanism, we'll go for that with you. Or the opposition can say, we don't like that weighing mechanism, we want to use this one instead. Then the government decides, oh, okay, we can win either way, but they can say, no, we think our weighing mechanism is the way to go. So sometimes we argue about how we're going to argue in the world of debate, and that can become interesting. Once we've established the definitions and the weighing mechanisms are all agreed to, the government presents their overall stance. Now here's where the fun begins. They're going to typically advance three major arguments. We also call those contentions, and that's going to make their case. Each speaker at the end of their speech is going to ask you to vote for them, to give you their support, to agree that they made the most impactful argument. So that's something you need to weigh as you listen to each speaker advance their argument, because at the end you will be voting. Here's some of the rules. There's something called protected time. That sound I'm going to make at the end of the first minute of each constructive argument. That means that they cannot be questioned or interrupted while they're speaking. Once you hear that sound for the first time, that means members of the opposing team can pop up and ask them a question. And we call it begging the question, and you'll see them do something that looks like, Joe, if you'd like to stand up, or Chris, and demonstrate it. If you turn around and show the audience what he's doing. What Chris is doing is begging the question. His arm stretched out is begging to be recognized, and the reason he's got his hand on his head is because in the days of Parliament, he's actually trying to keep his wig on while he bends down and looks at his notes. And so in sort of a nod to the old school way of doing this form of debate, kids still, and adults, as we will see, will still engage in this sort of unusual stance of behavior. At the end of each argument, that minute is going to be protected as well. So if the team wants to ask questions of the other team, they've only got a certain window in which they're allowed to do that. Questions, when asked, there's no limit according to the rules, but you might hear a speaker say, I'll take your first of 3 questions. And the other team doesn't have to buy that. They can keep asking questions if they want to. Or they might say, that's a question that I wish I had time for, but I'm sure that my next speaker will address it, which is really their way of getting out of a tight situation. So look for that too. Look for that too. Okay, there's a point of order. We really don't really expect those to be made. It would stop the clock, and they argue something technical, and we're not in a competitive debate format, so we really don't get technical arguments. But if we did, I would either say point taken, point not taken, or point taken under consideration. It means I'll get back to you later. All right, here's a fun one, point of personal privilege. If the debater feels that another team member grossly misconstrued the spirit of what they were arguing, or if they've made a personal attack on their character, they can call point of personal privilege. In other words, don't talk about my mama. That's considered, again, shameful. Okay, so that would be a reason to call a point of personal privilege. And finally, the weighing mechanism. I told you that this is the criteria by which the audience, you, the peanut gallery, will judge the debate. You'll hear them present things like, we're going to prove to you today that our arguments are more true than false. So if you find at the end of this debate that we were more true than false in the way we argued today, you will vote for us. Or they might say something like, on balance, we have the better arguments, meaning the weightier arguments were advanced by us. Yeah, you had 20 arguments on the other side, but they were all fluffy and light and not substantial like ours were, is basically what that's saying. They might also advance a super value, like our side shows that this is about freedom or this is about independence, and we proved that more than they did. Utilitarianism, how many philosophy students do we have here? Okay, and you're familiar with that term, does the greatest good for the most number of people, or cost benefits, which means basically it's going to give us more benefits than it will costs. Finally, in the last two speeches, each team's leader will present you with a list of voters. In other words, they're going to tell you why they won the debate. So they might offer reasons like, that other team dropped the argument and we won it therefore. Or again, our arguments were weightier. They missed the point, they went off topic. So you're going to hear a lot of claims made on either side why they won and why you should vote for them, but ultimately it's going to be your decision by your applause which topic, which side you thought won. All right, are you ready to get this party started? Okay. Remember? Here we go. All right. So I'm going to quickly show which each topic is. I'll give you a moment to sit and ponder them, and then I will prompt you to applaud, in this case, for the topic that you wish to see debated. So please hold your applause until all three topics have been revealed. This house cannot afford to eat organically. This house believes that the worst local food is better than the best fast food. This house should significantly decrease its production of corn. So these are our three topics. I'll repeat them. This house cannot afford to eat organically. This house believes that the worst local food is better than the best fast food. This house should significantly decrease its production of corn. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to now choose the topic that the faculty and students will face off on. So by your applause, let's hear your support for this chosen topic. This house cannot afford to eat organically. This house believes that the worst local food is better than the best fast food. This house should significantly decrease its production of corn. I saw that one coming, actually. Okay. All righty. So it sounded very close to call. So we're going to have to divide the house. Okay. And what that means is we're going to do a raising of hands, and I'm going to ask two illustrious members of my speech team. Yes. No, actually, you have vested interest. I will have Alicia and Kevin. Shane. They're ready to mix this up. I will ask Alicia Hartner and Kat Stempel, again, award-winning members of FCC's forensics program, to do the count. So, Alicia, you will count those that voted for the first one, and when she's done, Kat, you can count the hands who voted for the second. So, those that want to see this house cannot afford to eat organically, debated, please raise your hand and keep your hand up in the air. And there was one that walked out the door, and he wants you to count him, Alicia. He'll be back.
26, 25, wait, outside?
Yeah, that was Ivan, and he'll be right back in.
Yes, so that's 26.
Okay. The members who wish, the peanut gallery portion that wishes to hear this house believes that the worst local food is better than the best fast food. Let's see your show of hands.